There's a mevucha in the Paiskim, whether these sugyas are the Rabbanans or the Raises or both. I will not be speaking about the halacha aspects. Bichlal, it's not my field. I'm not sure if anything's my field, but that's not my field. Thank you. I want to speak about the interrelationship between these two sugyas, Avani Mahapach B'Charora, and what's called in the Welt the sugya of Yored Lumnasa Shechaveroi. There are two sugyas. There's one sugya in the Gemara in Kedushin Daf Mem Amud Aleph, which talks about Ani Mahapach B'Charora, and somebody goes ahead and takes it, a boachav and a tola haimenu, nikra rasha. Rashi says over here, nikra rasha, sheyori l'chai chaveret. That's one sugya. It's a sugya. And the Gemara discusses when, where, how. Machlekes Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam over there, whether when the ani is coming to take something of hefker, is there a problem of ani mahapach b'charora? It's not clear b'chlal why you're a rasha. Is the rishus that connected to momonistic adinim that you're taking something which the other fellow has rights on already, or is it an ethical rishus? Rashba's mashma that you're stam an evil person taking something of somebody else. It's a midas sugya. Other Rishonim are mashma that it's a momonistic adin. But there's a sugya in the Testament Alf called Kedushin. It appears one place in Shas called Ani HaMahapech V'Hara. A person's making efforts to get hold of a certain object. There's another sugya in Babasha Chafal from the days, what's called in the Welt, the sugya of Yerd and Masa Shechavera. Over there, the Gemara is talking about situations where a person, like the Gemara says over there, a person has a rechaim, a person has a store, a factory, a mill, and the question is he allowed to tell his chaver not to open up a similar business? Gemara Chafal from the days. The Pashtas, the two sugyas have nothing to do with each other, and that's how Rabbi Akiva Eiger learns. We're going to learn Rabbi Akiva Eiger in a few minutes together. The Pashtas is the two sugyas have nothing to do with each other. Halachically, they have nothing to do with each other, and in Pshat, they have nothing to do with each other. I'll explain. It's ungenommen, and that's how Rabbi Akiva Eiger took on, and most of the Welt took on, that the din of Ani Mahapach B'Charora, you can't force it. The guy's a rasha, but there's nothing you can do about it. There's a Ritva, who brings Rabbeinu Tam, who says you have to give it back. But besides that, the consensus of most Rishonim and Paiskim is that it's not ma'akiv. In other words, you're a rasha, but there's nothing I could do to stop you. And even the Ritva says you have to give it back. It could be that's to undo the rishus. But in Bezdin, I can't go to Bezdin and stop you. That's the consensus that by Ani Mahapach B'Charora. The din of Baba Bashach of Alpha Beis, where if I open a store, I open a business, I can be ma'akiv you, is a lashon of ma'akiv. Rabbi Akiva Eiger takes on, and most of the places can take on like that I can be ma'akiv you. I can go to Bezdin and force you to close your store. So there are two different worlds. There's a world called Ani Mahapach B'Charora, which says that if somebody is trying to get something, in all the cases that you're going to hear in the afternoon of all types of Ani Mahapach B'Charora, all types of Anis and Aniyim, all types of Charoras. But the point is that it's not a question of that I opened a business and I'm selling a veka kviyistic business. And by the way, the pashtas leikovu zelzeh. Ani Mahapach B'Charora is talking about a case where the guy's not opening a business. It's not a kviyistic azach. The question is, I have a gewisse chayfetz that I'm making an effort to get, and the question is, can somebody else take it? Then there's another din called opening the store, the Gemara of Paskas Lechiyuse. Over there, I'm not a Mahapach B'Charora. I didn't get to the darg of Mahapach. I opened the store. There were no customers came, no clients came. I'm not a Mahapach B'Charora. I'm not ototot going to get it. So B'Pashtus, loizeh v'loizeh. The case of Mahapach B'Charora is not a case of Paskas Lechiyuse. It's not the way you make a living. I'm looking to have an opportunity. That's not my business. It's not my living. I have to write a deal. I'm about to take it. Somebody else grabs it away from me. That's a rasha. You're not ma'akiv. But it's not called Paskas Lechiyuse. It's not necessarily the way I make my living. And the din of Baba Basra, Mitzad Sheni, is not Mahapach B'Charora. There's no Charora there. There's no clients who are standing online deliberating, should I go here? We're talking about the etzem ability to open a business. So you're not a Mahapach B'Charora. But there, you have a time called Paskas Lechiyuse. You're taking away my livelihood. And there you can be Ma'akiv. So l'chayra, the two sugyas, like Karvazel said, the two sugyas have nothing to do with each other. One is a sugya, we'll call it even a rishon sugya. The guy's about to take it, you're snatching it away from him. There it's not paskas l'chayusa, it's not necessarily the way he makes a living. There's a problem on a specific chayfetz that the guy's about to take it. And then there's a second parsha of where it's not mahapach b'charo, where I'm not coming to take it necessarily. In other words, I'm opening a business, and I don't have the darga of mahapach, what's called in the Rishonim and Achronim. I'm not a mahapach, but I have a paskas l'chiyusay. I open the business, and you take away my living. Over there's a din of ma'akiv. I can stop you. I can go to Bezdin. I have a moment as the ketzviyah to stop you. Those are the two sugyas. L'chayru lekovru zelzeh. They have nothing to do with each other. B'chal. At kedekach, it's a pella. Why they're printing the b'chal in the same pamphlet over here? So who says this? Who says what I just said in 2 words? Rabbi Akiva Eiger. This whole separation of the two sugyas that they have nothing to do with each other, the din of Ani Mapach B'Charara and the din of Paskas L'Chiyusa, that they're Korvul Zelzeh, they have nothing to do with. There are different cases with different dinim. Not every Mahapach is Paskas L'Chiyusa, and not every Paskas L'Chiyusa is Mahapach B'Charara. And they have different dinim. Here you're Ma'akiv and here you're not. Rabbi Akiva Eiger is the one who stole the vek, that Korvul Zelzeh, they have nothing to do with each other B'Chal. Where's that? Taisus in Kedushin, Daf Nun Testament Aleph, brings down, we're on page number 3. Taisus in Kedushin brings down the famous machlekes between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, whether there's a din of Ani Mahapach B'Charora by Hefker. Rashi says that by Hefker there's Ani Mahapach B'Charora. Taisus says absolutely not. You're not Ani Mahapach B'Charora. Fektais Akasha. Fektais Akasha in Kedushin Daf Nun Testament Aleph from the Gemara Bava Basra Daf Chafal from the Beis. The Gemara over there says Machikin Esadag. That the din is that let's see the lashon of Taisus inside. Machikim min hadog kamali ritzas hadog af bishul shehefker. The Gemara says in Bava Basra that if a guy is going fishing, he has a fishing business. So if I put down my nets or my fishing tackle in one place, the other guy has to be machik from my business. Paskas l'chiyusei. Fektais akasha, the fish are hefker. So how could Rabbeinu Tam say that there's no din of ani mahapich b'charor by hefker? It's a meforshing Bava Basra. Machikim min hadog. A dog is hefker. As I fektais on Rabbeinu Tam, I have a raya that there's a din of ani mahapich b'charor even where by hefker. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger gives a Veltskishrei over here. And they printed the wrong Rabbi Akiva Eiger over here. In the Koivitz here. They printed all the Rabbi Akiva Eiger up till his kasha. Rabbi Akiva Eiger, over it's in 2 places. It's in Chuvas Chelik Zayin. They printed part of the Chuva here. And it's also written, if you want to see it inside, it's in the new blue Rabbi Akiva Eiger's on Bava Basra, on Daf Chafal from the base. It's a long tshuva to the Chassam Sefer Chelik Zayin. It's also brought down in the new printing of the Ksav V'Chosim of Rabbi Akiva Eiger in the Ksav Yad Siman Samaches. Rabbi Akiva Eiger makes a whole rash over here, and in this Rabbi Akiva Eiger state very big lumdus. Rabbi Akiva Eiger says he doesn't understand the Tosfos. Let's learn the Tosfos inside. There's a sugya called Ani Mahapech B'Charora, right? So there's a shayla. What happens when the charor is hefker? Rashi says you're not allowed to take it. Taisus says a reasonable time, which a lot of Rishonim say, listen, it's hefker. I'm not a Rasha taking it. Where am I going to get hefker from? Taisus says I have a raya to Rashi. He says machikim in a dog. The dog is hefker. Fekter b'kiva a veltskishrei. Fekter b'kiva eger ach versteh nicht. What are you talking about? Hello, the Gemara of machikim in a dog was brought down in which Gemara? Bava Basra Chaf Aleph. Bava Basra Chaf Aleph, Rav Huna said that you're not allowed to be my midrashayim. A guy wants to be my midrashayim, puts on it, he opens up his mill, right? His flour mill. So you're not allowed to open up a flour mill if somebody else opened the flour. I can be ma'akiv bar muvoy, I can be ma'akiv the other guy from opening. On that, the Gemara brought down a kasha, a raya, machikim in a dog. The Gemara brought a raya to Rav Huna. Rav Huna said in Bava Basra Chaf Aleph from a base that ma'akiv, that one bar muvoy could go be ma'akiv another guy from opening up his flour mill. Says the Gemara, a raya to Rav Huna, machikim in a dog. Nuzdach Mufurish says Rabbi Akiva Eiger that the topic of machikim in a dog has nothing to do with ani mahapech b'charora, because the Gemara brings it down in Bava Basra Chaf Aleph, and Rabbi Akiva Eiger speaks out. And the din of Chaf Aleph and Bava Basra, what we call paskas l'chiyusei, you're ma'akiv. You're not just the Rosh. Rabbi Akiva Eiger speaks out the whole shtickle Torah. I want to read the Rabbi Akiva Eiger inside. Rabbi Akiva Eiger's lashon is v'gam mai salka daitach da teises lahakshes. Halahedye nakad Rav Huna hatam the amalek a paskas le'lechiyusei. Rav Huna said the reason is because paskas, you're taking away my livelihood. What's my raya that Yored Lum Nosa is a different sugya? You can go to Bezdin and shut the guy down. Va'al kochach mishum, quote, the yored lo nasi, because there's a new sugya called livelihood. You're not allowed to take away somebody's livelihood. Imkain, my hikshu. What's factaisis? Avada, what are you mixing Haidu with Kush? The topic over there in Baba Basra is a topic of Paskas L'chiyusei. And Zok Rabbi Kiva Eger, and I could be Ma'akiv. Rabbi Kiva Eger speaks out the whole shtickle Torah. He says, I could be Ma'akiv, it's a momentous din. I can go to Bezdin and close your store down. You can't do that by Ani Ma'apach B'charor. You can't go to Bezdin. So it's two sugyas, says Rabbi Kiva Eger. It's two sugyas. And the Gemara brings down the story of Dag, Benegeh to where? To Yena sugya. So Yena sugya, but we're talking about the guy's a fishing business. He's a fisherman. And he put down his net over here, Emachta living, and that the Gemara says, Machik Mer Dag, because Pasach Yusei. Nothing to do with Ani Ma'apach B'charor. Ani Ma'apach B'charor is a guy that's not his living. It's not his livelihood. It's not Umas Chaveri, the guy walking down the street and he saw a deal. So he said, let's buy it. Can't think it's not his business. He's a different business completely. It's not Paskas L'chiyusei. But over there, the Gemara brought down Machik Min Adag in the context. In fact, the Kiva Eger, Taisus is a printing mistake. Taisus asks that I'll prove to you that there's Ani Mahapach B'charora even where? Even by Hefker, because Machik Min Adag, what are you talking about? Machik Min Adag is the other sugya. As I fact, the Kiva Eger says, what's like 2 minutes? Says Rabbi Kiva Eger, I must have the whole Rabbi Kiva Eger. So Rabbi Kiva Eger that Rabbi Kiva Eger says an astounding thing. Rabbi Kiva says the Taisus Kash doesn't make it. By the way, this Taisus appears in Babasra. It's a famous Taisus. Taisus a stira to Rabbeinu Tam, who says there's no din of Ani Mahapach Hefker. What do you do with Dag? That's the effect of Rabbi Kiva Eger. So Rabbi Kiva Eger, because of this, is not to be believed. He says a huge teichik. So Rabbi Kiva Eger, a pilpul noira in one line, kedarkoi. He says a massive shtickle Torah, and it's in the Ksav Yad over here in the Ksav V'chosam, and it's printed in the, like I said, in the blue Rabbi Kiva Eger Bov Basra from Tshuva Chazan. He says a zah shtickle Torah, a zah spin. It goes like this. Avada says Rabbi Kiva Eger, there are two sugyas. V'lei karvels, they have nothing to do with each other. The sugya in Bava Basra is the sugya of yored lo nosei shechaveiro, a livelihood sugya, and that is ma'akiv, and that's a din. And then there's a sugya called Ani Mahapach B'charora. Says Rabbi Kiva Eger, zah cheshman. It goes like this. The Gemara Bava Basra Dachof Amar Alf brought down Rav Huna said Paskas L'chiyusei. If you open a store, you can block the other guy ma'akiv. That sugya is the sugya of yored lo nosei shechaveiro. That's the sugya of blocking somebody else's living. Atkan. Says the Gemara, I have a raya to Rav Huna. What's my raya to Rav Huna? Because Machik is a Dag. The guy's a fisher business, and he has to push away. He can push away the other guy. Everything Gemara in Babasa. What's the Gemara answer? Shani Dag. What's the Gemara answer over there? Yov Siyara, whatever that means. A massive Machlekes Rishonim and what that means. But Dag is different. Now watch the Rebbe Kiva Eger. So Rebbe Kiva Eger, what's the Gemara's teretz? The Gemara's teretz is no, because Yov Siyara, because by Dag you put out this, that, whatever the pshat is. So it's not because of Paskas L'chiyusei. When you put out the Yavi Sarah, the Dag is Ani Mahapach. Yes, now pilpul. The Kiva Eger says like this. The Gemara asked the Kasha that said, the Gemara bought Rav Huna and says, Paskas L'chiyusei, I can close down your store. Zakti ma have a raya to Rav Huna, machikim as a dog. Zakti ma no shani dagim because Yavi Siyara you put down something. Says Rabbi Kiva Eger, Tosfos learned what's the teretz of dag is different. No, you made a mistake. Dag is not paskas l'chiyusei. Dag is ani ma'apach b'charora because when you put down the net over there, it's already ototot the dag is going to come, whatever the pshat over there is. So it's not paskas l'chiyusei. There you got to the darga of mahapach. On that, Tosfos asked this kasha here, Zal Pilpul. Taisus kasha was like the Kiva Eger. What are you asking from the story of Dag to Ani Mahapach that applies even by Hefker? A Dag is Paskas L'chiyusei is a livelihood issue. Ani Mahapach B'charora is a local zach on this Charora. Says the Kiva Eger, no. Taisus meant to ask from the Gemara's teretz. The Gemara brought a Rav Huna, and the Gemara brought a raya to Rav Huna, and the Gemara said that Dag is different because you have Zara. Says the Kiva Eger, what did the Gemara mean? The Gemara meant to say that there's no raya from Dag because by Dag when you put down the bait or whatever it is, you already got to the darg of Ani Mahapach. So you can't bring a raya to Rav Huna's livelihood vart of Yoridum Nosa Shechaveiroi from Dag, because Dag is Ani Mahapach B'chavera. And from there, Tosfos asked the kasha on Rabbeinu Tam that the teretz of the Gemara, I'm reading Rabbi Kiva Eger word for word, the teretz of the Gemara in Baba Basra, which said you can't bring a raya from Dag to Rav Huna, is because Dag is a din of Ani Mahapach. How'd you get to a Dag of Ani Mahapach? All you did was put down nets. No, because it's Yov Sahara, it's already Ototot. So there it's Mahapach. So there you're Machikin, not mitzad the din of Paskas L'chiyus of Yoredum Nasai. And from there he asked the kasha and said, so you see that there's Ani Mahapach Behefker, and of that Tosfos answered and said, no. The Gemara didn't mean Ani Mahapach B'charora, the Gemara meant Yoredum Nasai Shechaveiroi. That's the pilpul that Rabbi Kiva Eger says in Tosfos, a massive shtickle teira But Rabbi Akiva says, ich verstehe nicht the Taisus in Kedushin who stellt zu the sugya of Paskes l'chiyusei, the sugya onim ha'hapach, they have nothing to do with each other. Like I said, they're different cases, and memela different dinim and different problems. Ad kidei kach, that the only way Taisus, Rabbi Akiva sticks with his shita, the only way he gets out of the kasha is by saying that Taisus meant a massive pilpul. He didn't mean to ask from the case of Machiki, he meant to ask from the Gemara's teretz. The Gemara's teretz was saying that no, here it's Ani Mahapach and it's not a case of Paschal Yusei, and there it's Hefka. And then Taisus reverses himself. And Taisus says, no, when you put down by the dog, it is Paschal Yusei. There's no kasha from there because I don't care if it's Hefka. Oh, shtickle teir, a whole pilpul. What I want to bring out is Rabbi Akiva is Rabbi Akiva got verstanden, like I introduced, the sugi have nothing to do with each other. At kedei kach, that Taisus who compares it, he says Taisus doesn't make sense. At kedei kach, Rabbi Akiva makes an ukimta in the Gemara Bava Basra. The Gemara Bava Basra was taka saying this chiluk that you can't compare dag there because dag is mahapich, quote unquote, as opposed to over here where paskas l'chiyusei. That's the shtickle Torah that Rabbi Akiva says. It's a huge doichik in Taisus. I want to matzia you a different shot. 2 minutes. We'll talk afterwards. The Mitzvah Shem. The shaila is there another way of getting out of this? So we have a shver Taisus. We have a Taisus. We have a Gemara Bava Basra that stellt zu the story. What do we have? So let's take a step back. We have a Gemara Bava Basra which has a sugya called Paskas l'chiyusei, about the stores. And the Gemara stellt zu to Dag, which is a livelihood business. The guy's a fisherman. And we have a sugya called Anim Hapech Charo. And Taisus compared the two. Says Rabbi Akiva, you can't compare the two. And Rabbi Akiva blabs like that. You can't compare the two. Just he gets out of the Taisus with a whole acrobatic over here. I want to be matzia to build from the sugya itself, kama v'kama mekayris, a different gang in the whole thing. That the two sugyas are taka one sugya, they're not two sugyas, but coming to suggest another mahalach, not like Rabbi Akiva, but with mekayris. And the first marker is this Taisus, by the way. The Taisus compares the two of them. First of all, there are two ritvas l'shitase mamish. The ritva explicitly says that the sugya over there in Bava Basra is based on Ani Mahapach B'Charara. One of them is on page 4, and one of them is on page 74. If you look for a second, we'll take 5 minutes and we'll learn the ritvas inside. He says explicitly that the two sugis are connected. He says first, not like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, like kovrul zelzeh, they have nothing to do with each other. One's a rosh at the kadin, one's a mammon at the kadin, one's a din in livelihood, one is a din in taking a chayfetz. Let's see the ritva, first of all, in Kedushin, page 4. Ritva over there discusses the issue about whether or not Hefker has Ani Hapech B'Charor. And at the bottom of the right side, the shaded right side, he says, and that's the pshat over there in the Gemara Bava Basra, bebar muvad, okum rechayev, also bar muvad achrin of okum gabei, the maskon of the Gemara, shem hu ben mavui acher ma'akav al yodoi. If it's a different mavui, I can block the guy. It's like mekach umemkar. Skip 2 lines. Aval the shchenoi to your neighbor einer kafeu kivin shehala dor b'movizeh ein malachtum is the menes layofa. I can't find a livelihood so quickly. This is where I live. The islay pseid of a heavy kahefker. It was astounding. Zok the ritva in Kedushin. By hefker, we don't say ani mahapech b'charor. Zok the ritva, and that's the pshat in the Gemara Bava Basra that says that in your own mavui, you can't tell the guy, what? Stay away. Because the side of Hefker is that I can't find Hefker so often, right? So easily. Well, the guy says, I live here. I can't go find business somewhere else. It's for the same svara that by Hefker, there's no din of what? Of Anim Hapech B'Charara. Likewise, the Gemara Bava Basra in the same mavui, the same thing. The guy could say, I can't find it so easily somewhere else. No, he's mixing two topics, and they'll shachas each other. The side of Hefker is a topic of Anim Hapech B'Charara. This Gemara Bava Basra that he's quoting is what? Is the topic of what? Of opening a business, correct? The Ritva explicitly mixes the rules of Ani Mahapech B'Charara with the rules of Armavah. And here you can't say Shtikot Rabbi Akiva because he says that the same lumdus that applies by Ani Mahapech B'Charara, why by Hefker, applies by the case of Bar Muvah. That's one Ritva. But the second Ritva is even more explicit. If you turn to page 74, a Ritva in Bava Basra, and that's why I asked her to print it out. Look at this Ritva over here. It's not to be believed. This is Ritva l'shitase. Dinahu de ma'akav alei de amar kapastus on page 74 in the shaded Ritva. Dinahu de ma'akav alei de amar kapastus l'chiyusa pirish de medam alei la'ani ha'mahapech b'charo v'achav v'not l'menu shenikor rasha. You hear Maisa? Sakti Ritva, what is this din of Baba Basra Chafala of Paskas Lechiyuse? I can stop the guy from building a store. Sakti Ritva, this is the din of Ani Mahapach B'charara. According to Rabbi Kiveger, it's a printing mistake. What are you mixing the two sugyas? It's a ton with the story of Paskas Lechiyuse. Paskas Lechiyuse is opening a business. Ani Mahapach B'charara is about a guy taking a charara. So we have two ritvos mefurish, mamish, not like Rabbi Kiveger. First of all, we have two ritvos mefurish, not like Rabbi Kiveger. We have two ritvos mefurish who say that black on white, mamish, that the sugya of Chaf Alpha Beis of Paskas Lechiyuse is intertwined with the sugya of Adim Hapach B'charara. Now the shaila is, what is the connection? A, and B, Rabbi Kiveger l'chayra right. There it says ma'akiv, I can go to Bezdin. In Russia, I can't. The din of Russia doesn't say I can go to Bezdin and force you. The shaila is, mitzad echad, let's summarize. We have a Tosfos who compared the two sugyas. He asked from one sugya to another. He asked from the case of the dag to the halachas of Anim Hapach B'charara. Rabbi Kiveger shreit chai v'kayim and said, lo yala ladas dover zeh, but l'maisa azay shteit. And we have two ritvas who mufurish, ritvah l'shitasim Bava Basra and in Kedushin, who explicitly says that the rules of Anim Hapach B'charara apply in Chaf Alpha Beis, the rules. And not only that, he says in Bava Basra Chaf Alpha Beis, that I can block you from putting a store is because of Anim Hapach B'charara. The shaila is fact to be kivega, but they have different dinim. Over here you're ma'akiv and here not. The shaila is hadover omer darsheni. So I want to be matzia here, the chashav tzibur here, a new mahalach in the whole sugya in Bava Basra, a whole new different shot, and obviously build it from the sugya itself, and like this. I want to be matzia, a completely different shot in the Gemara of Bava Basra, and I want to maybe be a kofer and say, at least from the pashup shot of the Gemara, there's no such thing as a sugya called Yerib B'Nosach Chavera. It's printed over here in the pamphlet. It's a mistake. Say that. I'm coming to ding on the pamphlet. That's all I want to be matzia. There's no such sugya called Yerib B'Nosach Chavera, and we'll build it slowly. We'll start from scratch. You all know that the Perek Le'Yachbar Chaf Alpha Beis is the sugya of Hachokas Nezikin. The Perek of Le'Yachbar is defined. It's one of the hardest prokim in Shas, and it deals with also one of the most vague inyonim. I'm living in a house and a guy's planting a tree. I can tell him move his tree back. He has a factory. It's making noise. He has windows overlooking me. He's making a smell. That's the whole Le'achbar. What's called Hachokas Nezikin. The whole balagan. Is it the rice? Is it the rabbanon? What is it? What right do you have to tell a guy what to do in his property? What's this sugya doing over here in the middle of this parak about businesses? So there's a sugya called Yered Mosi. I don't know, you're supposed to support Yidden. You're not allowed to take away somebody else's business, right? So what's it doing in the parak here? So there's a Chuvas Rosh. We'll start from here. I want to quote you Chuvas Rosh. Chuvas Rosh is in Klal Hey Ois Gimel. The Rosh says an astounding thing. Quote, I'm quoting the Rosh. Zakta Chuvas Rosh in Klal Hey Ois Gimel. Quote, Shekol ha'archokas ha'shnuyos b'Bava Basra hainu davka hechesh hadover hanismach mazik l'shchenoi. Where I'm being mazik to my neighbor. Biguf, Memoinoi, Kigoin, Hasamich bar l'sal chaveroi. I dig a bar next to my friend's field. I'm not in his field, but I'm weakening the foundations of his ground, correct? That's classic Le'achbar. Le'achbar. So he says, V'chein, kol ha'archok is Le'achbar, according to Rosh. Oisha mafal olov, you're darkening his windows because you're building a building. Oy machmas hareach, or there's unpleasant smells. Oy pasakta l'chiyusei, or you take away his business. Rabbi said, did you hear? The Chuvas Rosh, Shtel Zavek, Paskas L'chiyusei, in the list of Hachokas Nezikim that we have, one neighbor damages another. You're radiating a bad smell, you're blocking his light, you're weakening the foundations of his earth, you're digging bar, and the last thing is you're taking away his business. Shtei in Toisa Rosh, that Pasaktas L'chiyusei, the reason why it's in Lo Yachbar, is because it's another way that I'm disturbing my friend's living. He brings it in the list of blocking his light, unpleasant smells, odors, and what? And the bar, and Paskas L'chiyusei. Now what in the world is after? Statement first in the Rosh, that I can block you and tell you to step back, that's like all the other Le'achbar Dekadinim. Your usage of your property is disturbing my living things. I have a ground, you're digging, it's weakening. Your tree's roots are coming in. You're making noise. There's unpleasant odor. You're blocking my light. You're taking away my parnasa. Part of my rights to live are to have a parnasa. And you're taking away my parnasa. By the way, I saw afterwards that the Chassam Sofer over there in Baba Basra, quote, says Mefurish, Devadai shoyrish din zehu b'toiras b'may diksiv shvatetem tzedek ben ish ben achiv, it's a Rashi and Dvarim, v'hakol b'chlal bein diyurei batim. It's the relationships of people when they live. Tanur, kirayim, chaloinais, chatzeras, windows, who's looking at who, whose oven is making smoke, and included that is stirring my parnasa, as they state in the Chassam Sofer. And the Chassam Sofer there says something very interesting, is that the Rabbanan is the Raisa. He says the Rabbanan filled in the details, but Moshe Rabbeinu says the Chassam Sofer stole the vek, that people have to live with each other in a normal way, and the Takanas were the Rabbanan. Says the Chassam Sofer, at the end of the day, it's the Raisa, not the Rabbanan. Because the headline is the Raisa of the Kedin. You have to live like a man. You have to live with everybody else. Now the details of what's called stirring somebody else. So there's windows and light and odors and noise and weakening the ground, and there's also stirring effect, stirring the guy's making a living. Voshte in this Shuvas Harosh. It's mashma the Shuvas Harosh that the reason why I could be ma'akiv is not because you're not allowed to take away my livelihood. That's not the reason I'm ma'akiv. I'm allowed to be ma'akiv because you're stirring, the same way I could be ma'akiv, you shouldn't plant a tree next to the border, you shouldn't dig a bar next to the border, and you shouldn't open a leather tanning factory that makes bad odors. You're not paskas l'chiyusei. It's a vekeshtal, the people have to live normally. That's what Le'ach was about. And part of living is, I have a right to make a living. So if I shtelled my factory first, it's a right that I have. So I can tell you, to be machik, step back. Where do I see this, by the way? That's what the sugi is about. It's fascinating. Go back to the Gemara in Bava Basra. It's a fascinating zach. I want to now build a whole binyan now, based on this. Part of this he said, I once heard from my Rebbe, Rabbi Eli, one word that I want to say over that he said. If you go back to your Gemara in Bava Basra, I want to tell you a beautiful zach mamish. If you go back to the Gemara in Bava Basra, let's go back to it. The Gemara brings down, I want to learn up the Gemara now, and I want to tell you, mamish a gevaldige zach. Mamish a gevaldige zach. The Gemara says, page 62 we are. The Gemara over there says that, Amar Rav Huna, can we take 2 minutes, learn it inside? We'll take 2 minutes, page 62, you all have it. Let's learn the piece of Gemara inside. Amar Rav Huna, Hai bar mavo, the uki rechayev, also bar mavo, chavei, v'kumoki kabei dinu, the makav aluye. Damli kapasich chusi. That's the dinner of Rav Huna. The Gemara brought a raya from Dag, slowly. And then the Gemara came along and said, a brisa. What did the Gemara say? It's a machikis tanoim. Tanoi, the Tanya, towards the bottom. Excuse me. Let's see the brisa before that. Meisvei. Everybody say, this is the heart of the sugya. Stating this brisa, what's the pshana Rav Huna? Why is Rav Huna right? Ani oiseh b'torch shali. Actually, why is Rav Huna wrong? Ani oiseh b'torch shali. V'ata oiseh b'torch shalcha. Correct? Stating this brisa, the reason to argue on Rav Huna, I want to say a dov and noira. What do you mean? Ani oiseh b'torch shali b'torch shalcha. What did Rabbi say? You're yoridum nasa shachaver, right? This brisa is the one who argues on Rav Huna. I want to stall the whole sugya on this line. Ach, versteh nicht. Rav Huna came along and said, you're ma'akiv, right? Yoridum nasa shachaver. As they say before in the pamphlet here. No, so what's the one who argues? There's a brisa that argues, right? Meisvei. Tanoi. Versteh in the brisa. Ani oiseh b'torch shali. Not your business. What type of answer is that to yoridum nasa shachaver? If you hold there's a problem with yoridum nasa, you can tell me it's also a problem. Go make a living. By the way, I would understand that the response of Rav Huna is, do machst a living, I make a living. And go learn. Muna b'tochen, the chazan is, go break your head. You understand? What do you mean? Ani oiseh b'torch shali? What do you mean? I'm doing my. What type of answer is that? Why? Is avada navada when we hear these words of ata oiseh b'torch shalcha ani oiseh b'torch shali, that rings a bell of shitas Rabbi Yossi and bobasha the chofei mebeis. A chofei mebeis, the Mishnah says, Rabbi Yossi says, there's no le'achbar. What do you mean you be machik? I'm staring you. You do what you want. I'm doing my part. You don't have the right to tell me to move out of my property. I'm using my property. That means the response to Rav Huna wasn't a parnasa teretz. It wasn't a mazik teretz. It wasn't a choshen mishpat teretz. What was the response that they said to Rav Huna? Very good, but I'm doing in my property. Ani oiseh b'torch shali. Ani oiseh b'torch shali, moiv Rabbi say, is layachbor reid. Is layachbor sprach. You don't have the right to tell me to leave my property because I'm doing b'torch shali. That's a lashon of Rabbi Yossi and Chofei Mebeis. I'm doing mine, you're doing yours. You're planting a tree, Steht mefurish in the Gemara that the agenda, whether Rav Huna is right or wrong, revolves around the shaila of can you tell me to be machik, not whether there's a thing called Yerim Nosar Chaver. I'm saying a Gemara. The Gemara brings down that the Tan who argues on Rav Huna was zakter. He doesn't say that drainage can cup. There's no such thing as Yerim Nosar Chaver. By the way, the whole thing of Yerim Nosar Chaver is a chiddush. Who says, you make a living, I'll make a living. Why have I called it Russia? Hey, what state in the Brisa? In the Brisa state that the reason why he argues is because I need to protect Shali. What type of time is that? That's a leachbo teretz. That's not a taina. Where does that respond to Rav Huna? Rav Huna said that you're also shachaveru, pasuk chiyusi. What's the answer? So what type of answer is that? The answer is that the dingarai Rav Huna is not on the pasuk chiyusi. You can agree to pasuk chiyusi. Everyone agrees to pasuk chiyusi. There is such a thing, but that doesn't give you a right to be machik me, to be oiker my shimush. But I also live here. So the dingarai on Rav Huna doesn't revolve around the topic of Paskas L'chiyusei. It doesn't revolve around the topic of Yoridum Nosa Shachaveroi. It revolves around the shaila of do you have the right to exercise a leyachbu dika harchaka in a case of Paskas L'chiyusei. That's the shaila. And the Tana who argued on Rav Huna was there. The Tana who argued on Rav Huna said, Tag Shali! I'll take questions afterwards, okay? Yeah, it's a good ha'ara, by the way. It's a good ha'ara. I'm not sure that's a taina or not. I've been thinking about it the last 24 hours nonstop. I'm happy you asked that. Yesh l'ayim b'zeh. Al kaponim, I'm not sure. It could be that we're talking about a case where the guy had rights in it to fish, okay? Whatever it is, it could be he had rights. I don't know. It's a good ha'ara, okay? Al kaponim, the Tana who, what state? This is the heart of the sugya. The Tana who argues on Rav Huna is not because he argues on the fundamental Yisrael of Paskas L'chiyusei. He doesn't say that. He says, I'm doing it my own, so you don't have the right to utilize Paskas L'chiyusei to tell me to leave. And the Rimagash over here, Afanor, the Rimagash over here, is mefurish like that. The Rimagash is mefurish that the topic over here is a leyachbor topic. It's not a Paskas L'chiyusei topic. The topic over here is a topic that revolves around, do you have the right to tell me to leave or not? Was steht in them? State that Rav Huna is based on two tiers. Rav Huna is based on two pillars, on two yisoidis. One yisoid is you're doing something bad, paskas l'chiyusei. But then there's another yisoid that the paskas l'chiyusei allows me to tell you, and you don't open a store in your property. The guy says, "B'tag shali, was mistabal telling me what to do in my property." That's loyachboraid. That's loyachboraid. Whether or not I can utilize a problem to tell somebody else that they can't utilize his property the way they want to. I want to tell you a dover nifla mamish. I once heard from a Basher, he said, I'm worried the Kazakh. The Welt asks that the Gemara brought a raya to Rav Huna. We don't pass him like Rav Huna. We pass him like the Tanakama. There's no din of Paskas L'chiyusei. So the Gemara brought a raya to Rav Huna from where? From Dag. What did the Gemara answer? No, Dag is L'chuli Alma, right? So the Welt asks, everybody asks, nobody, the Rambam doesn't bring down the story of Dag. Why not bring down the story of Dag? Because we paskin not like Rav Huna, we paskin like the Tanakama. In fact, everybody. But Dag, the story of the Dag, the Gemara says everybody agrees to. Shani Dag, right? So why don't the Paiskim? It's Hashmata, the Rambam, the Paiskim. Nobody brings down the story of the Dag. Why? Because we don't paskin like Rav Huna. But the Gemara said the Dag is l'chuli alma. The Gemara brought a brayso of Dag, and the Gemara said everybody's moeded to Dag. Where did Dag disappear from rabbinic literature? It disappeared. So the Achronim say, the Beis Ephraim says, others say, that now that we have a machlekes tanoim, we don't have a problem with Dag anymore. We can answer that, well, the Dag is who? It's a Shring Gamliel. It's a Gendikt. I don't have a problem with that. I don't need to come on to Shani Dag. Told I didn't know there's a machlekes tanoim, so the Gemara was looking for Terutzim to explain that Dag, everybody's moida. Nachdem that I have a machlekes tanoim, so I can do it's a Shring Gamliel. There's no reason for the Rambam to bring it down. I once heard for a Basher, he said a moira the knech, which is nifla. He said it's not just that we could answer. The teretz of Dag collapsed. Why did it collapse? Watch. And here we get to the heart of what I want to say. The Gemara in the beginning, when the Gemara brought a raya from Dag, the Gemara brought Rav Huna. The Gemara said Rav Huna was mechadish that paskas l'chiyusei. So the Gemara brought a raya. What do you want to bring a raya to? You're right. There's such a thing called paskas l'chiyusei. Dag, there's a thing called paskas l'chiyusei. There's such a thing. That's Kol's man. The Gemara learned that the reason why we argue in Rav Huna is because we don't hold the paskas l'chiyusei. The Gemara says, I'll prove to you there's a thing called paskas l'chiyusei. Says the Gemara, no, there's no raya because over there the Yav Sierra. But later on, the Gemara brings a machlekes tanoim. And was steht in the Machlekes Tanoim? That the reason why they argue on Rav Huna is why? Not because there's no paskis. Why do they argue on Rav Huna? Because ani oiseh b'torch sheli. So the teretz on dag collapsed. If ani oiseh b'torch sheli, if I have rights to do what I'm doing, so then the whole teretz on dag collapsed. What do I care if you're more of a paskis, less of a paskis? That's not the argument of Rav Huna. So kol zman we didn't know this new yisoid of ani oiseh b'torch sheli. So then it could be that everybody agrees to dag. Dag is more of a paskis. It's a higher level of a paskis. Oh, but if the Gemara was megala, that the reason why to argue Rav Huna is not a paskis l'chiyus of the Gemara, it's a much deeper machlekes. You don't have the right to tell me what to do. If you don't have the right to tell me what to do, so that's not going to help me, Yov Siara. But there's a fundamental problem. You don't have the right to tell me what to do. So the Rishonim will all mashmit the story of Dag. Because the story of Dag doesn't stem with those who argue on Rav Huna. Because those who argue, if we would argue on Rav Huna because we don't hold the paskis l'chiyusei, so Dag is better. It's more paskis l'chiyusei because Yov Lisara. But if the reason why we argue on Rav Huna is not because of paskis l'chiyusei, we argue on Rav Huna because of the much bigger thing. And you don't have the rights to tell me what to do. So what's going to help me dag? So the Yeshayna didn't bring down dag. That's nifla moed. Hayetzim idvarenu is we're building from the Tosis Chuvas Harosh, and we're building from the Sugi itself and from the Cham Sefer, that there's only one Sugya. There's no Sugya called Yored and Asa Shechaveri. No such thing. What there is like this. There's a thing called Ani Mehapech B'Charar. Ani Mehapech B'Charar says that if you take away somebody's parnasa, it's a bad thing. Now there's another Sugya called Doyachbar, which says that I have rights to tell a guy, be machik your usage because you're being mazik me. Lefi this raid, there's no such thing bechlal as yored and also shachaveri. There's no sugya called yored and also shachaveri. The reason why in Basra Chafal from the base you're allowed to be ma'akiv is not because there's a sugya called yored and also shachaveri. It's because your living is stirring my living. Smells, light, noise, boiros, shroshim, long list. Parnasa. I have a right to make a parnasa. That gives me a right to tell you can't do a parnasa. So the ma'akiv is not because there's a bazunder din called Yorev Nosa Shechaveroi. The ma'akiv is because I have a right to say you're stirring me. There's all types of stirs, there's all types of hachokas. The Rosh brings a whole list of all types of things that you're stirring me. One of the things I have a right to do is to make a parnasa. So it's not a bazunder sugya called Yeridum Nasa Shechaveroi. It's based on the fact that I have rights to do usages and I have the right to tell you don't do usages which stir me. What's called stirring me? Odors stir me, noise stirs me, shroshim stir me, they weaken the foundation, boirish stir me, when it's dark it stirs me, and if I can't make a parnasa, it stirs me. So the ma'akiv is not stemming from a direct choshemish dikadin of yoredum nasa shechaveroi. It's stemming from the hachokas of Layachbar. And by the way, I'm showing it to you. It's not just a Chuvas Harosh. It's come out of a Fursha Gemara. The Gemara says that the Tanakama, who argues on Rav Huna, argues Layachbar dik. He doesn't argue choshemish dik. It's nifla moed. The Tanakama who argues on Rav Huna doesn't argue Layachbar dik. He argues with Shimon. He doesn't argue choshemish, but paskis, you're a groma. It's not a mazik. The guy doesn't have it yet. He argues Layachbar. He says, that's the response to Rav Huna. So I see from that that's the Ikar Chiddush of Rav Huna. The Ikar Chiddush of Rav Huna is that I have a right to tell you, no, you can't do. That's the whole Layachbar. The whole Layachbar is about that I have the ability to tell somebody else how he can use his property. And this is a prat. This is one of the Achokas Nezikim. There's a long list. Says the Tanakama, no. At Kedei Kach the Beis Ephraim asks. So why don't you just bring Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yossi argues in the whole Layachbar of Chafayim Beis, except you have Giri delay. Seder. You have to know, maybe here it's worse, maybe here it's better. But it's the same sugya, it's bitak shali. It's not a paskas chiyusa sugya. If that's true, that the entire sugya of Huna, the ma'akiv, that means, yeah, it's ma'akiv, but it's not ma'akiv because of a momentous dikadin. It's ma'akiv because of a layachbar dikadin. I have rights to use my property, I have rights of susim, and that allows me to tell you how to use your property, which is, by the way, the ikr nekud of layachbar. The ikr chiddush of layachbar is that I can tell a guy what to do in his property, hagam that he's not doing anything in my property b'chal. If that's the sugi over there, the way it's meforsh in Shuvas Harosh, the way it's meforsh in the Cham Sefer, the way it's meforsh in the Gemara, and I'm eating on a cherry on the ice cream, That's why the Rambam didn't bring it down, because the Maila of Dag only had Maila, calls we were handling Paskis L'chiyusei. The minute the Gemara moved over, that the discussion is a much deeper discussion of whether Oisei B'Terek Shaloi, Dag lost its Maila, because in the world of Oisei B'Terek Shaloi, it doesn't make a difference whether you're Paskis L'chiyusei. You don't have rights to tell me to move. So that's why the Rambam was mashmit the din of Dag. The din of Dag disappeared lahalacha. It's nifla ma'od. If that's true, so then this is the relationship between the two sugyas. Avada. There's one sugya. The one sugya is called Ani Hapach B'Charor. The sugya Ani Hapach B'Charor defines, what does Rashi say? Yered L'chai Chaveroi. Ani Hapach B'Charor is mechadish, a tremendous chiddush, that if you're disturbing somebody else's parnos, I'm didn't steal from him and I'm going to take it away from him. That's called nezek. Now, once I know that it's called hezek, so then in loyach particular situations, because it's called hezek, I can tell you to be marchik. There aren't two sugyas, Rabbi say. There's one sugya. There's a sugya called Anim Hapach B'Charor. Anim Hapach B'Charor is mechadish, a yisoid called Paskis L'chiyusei. Anim Hapach B'Charor is mechadish, that there's such a thing, it's a problem. You're not beseder, that you take away somebody's living. Now, if there wouldn't be a sugya of Anim Hapach B'Charor, there wouldn't be loyach bar. Bad odors disturb me, darkness disturbs me, noise disturbs me, drilling holes disturbs me, roots disturb me, but taking away my living, it's not called a disturbance. I'm beseder. But once Ani Hapach B'Charor teaches me that you're a Rasha, that you're not allowed to do it, is now that we know that Ani Hapach B'Charor do it, now I can put it into my list of L'yachbar things. So there aren't two sugyas with two sets of rules. One is called Ani Hapach B'Charor, and there's another sugya called Jerem. There's also a thing. There's one sugya called Ani Hapach B'Charor. Ani Hapach B'Charor defines when are you beseder and when not. When are you allowed to be yored l'chiz chaver or not? Avifol that you're not allowed to be yored l'chiz chaveroi kicks in l'yachbar. So it's like making noise. You'll tell me, why is it a problem that I'm staring your living? That's called staring you? Yeah, Ani Hapach B'Charor teaches me that I'm staring. That's what the Ritva meant to say. That it's the sugya of Ani Hapach B'Charor. There aren't two sugyas. There's a sugya that says you're not allowed to be yored l'chiz chaveroi. But that's not enough to go be makiv. That's a Russia. That's a bad thing. Once we know it's a bad thing, so that quick sarayin until leyachbar. There's a lot of bad things you can't do to your chaver. And broke out of machlekes, whether or not I could say ani Yosef b'Terek Shali. That is no shaykhus b'chal to the etzem shayl of Ani Hapach B'Charor. That's why the Ram doesn't bring down Dag, because Dag disappeared by the end of the Gemara. The mile of Dag was over. That's nifla moed. The fizeh. I want to say a Moridik Revach. Rabbi Akiva Eiger in the Ksav Chosim is meramiz literally in 3 words to a kasha. Listen to a kasha Rabbi Akiva Eiger. His meramiz it. The Gemara brings down the Did of Rav Huna of Muvah, what they call over here in the pamphlet the Sugi of Yerid, the Mnoseh Shechaveri. And then the Gemara brings a raya from where? From Achikim Esadag. Effective Rabbi Akiva Eiger, what's the raya? Halei Rashi holds that we say Ani Hapach B'Charor even where? Even by Hefker. So what's the raya? Maybe it's Ani Hapach B'Charor over there. A fakir kasha, a new kasha. The Gemara brought out Rav Huna of the Inalada Muvah. Pasuk Yusuf. The Gemara brings a raya from where? From Achikim Esadag. What's the raya? Maybe Achikim Esadag is a case of Mahapach. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger answers, it's not a darg of Mahapach. I want to say Pashat the Teretz. There's no two sugyas. There's one sugya. The sugya is Paskis L'chiyusei, Ani Hapach B'Charor means Yered L'chai Chaver. Rashi says in Kedushin, you saw the Rashi? Rasha, the Yered L'chai Chaver. There's one sugya. You're staring at a guy. In the beginning of the Gemara held that the reason why I ding on Rav Huna is why? Because I don't hold of Paskis L'chiyusei. Says the Gemara, Machikim Esadag, we see you do. Afterwards, the Gemara moves over and says another reason why I ding on Rav Huna. Because Ani Yosef b'Terek Shali, there's no L'yachbar there. And the minute Ani Yosef b'Terek Shali, the Rav Huna collapsed. What happened to the sugya over here in the pamphlet called Yored B'Mnoseh Shechaveri? No such sugya. The sugya is Paskis L'chiyusei, Ani Hapach B'Charor, Yored L'chai Chaver. You're staring me. The question is, does that give me a leyachbadik right to tell you how to use your property? Does it go into the list of noise, all that list? One Tanakam holds yeah, one Tanakam holds no. The Mela, the Gemara is, what a right from Achikin? In fact, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, maybe over there it's Ani Mahapach. Rabbi Akiva Eiger L'shitoso learns that it's two sugyas. The sugya could Yeredum Nosei, the sugya called Mahapach. Rabbi Akiva, what's the raya? It's not two sugyas, it's one sugya. The entire din of L'yachbar is based on the sugya of Ani Mahapach. If the Ani Mahapach tells us, if the Ani Mahapach tells me that a Zazach is not beseder, now I can tell you, don't use your property. Now it goes into the halakas of Le'achbar. That's all. The Gemara in the beginning thought that Rav Huna is saying a Veltz Ufrais, that there's such a thing called Paskas L'Chiyusei. The Gemara says have a Raya, Machikim Es Adag. The Gemara says no, over there it's more Paskas L'Chiyusei. But then the Gemara brings a Brisa. The Brisa is on the Yosef B'Tech Shali. The Gemara switched channels. The Gemara says moving into big raid over here now. Now it's Machlekes Tanoim whether B'chal you have Le'achbar over here. But there aren't two sugis. Me'els Niflam Ha'oi, L'Fizeh, Tosis is Kasha. It's Gevaldik. Tosis brought down a Machlekes Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi whether or not by Hefka we say Ani Havach B'charar. What that machlekes is not so important now. Could be what exactly the Gedorim are of Ani Havach B'charar. I'm sure you'll hear Mitzvah in Halacha what exactly the gather is. Fekta is a kasha. Ha machikim es a dag. It's a hefker. Fekta v'kivega veltz geshrei. You mix the hoidu with kush. The sugya of machikim es a dag is the sugya of Yeridum Nosachver. The guy's a fisherman. He's making a living. Is over there, of course, it applies by hefker also. I machta living from them. And over here, we're handling Ani Havach B'charar, a one-time event. But if you what I'm saying, it's all the same sugya. The sugya of Le'achbar is not a separate inyan. It's after Ani Havach B'charar, because the sugya of Le'achbar is not a sugya of your. There's no such thing called. There's no problem called Yom Yosef Chaveri. There's only one problem called Ani Havach B'charar. If Ani Havach B'charar is called a shter, then it kicks into Le'achbar. It goes into the Juvas Arosh. The Mela, Fektois Zakasha, I don't understand you. Machikim es a dog, it's hefker. If it's hefker, there's no Ani Havach B'charar. And if there's no Ani Havach B'charar by hefker, but Basra collapses. Either guy's making a living as a fisherman, no such sugya. There's no sugya called I'm a fisherman, don't share my parnasa. No such thing. How do I know that? Because the Tanakama said, Ani Yosef B'Tech Shali, was hottest to ton to parnasa. If the time is you can't share my parnasa, so what do I care? Ani Yosef B'Tech Shali? The teretz is there's no such thing as saying you can't share my parnasa. What there is that you're staring me. Ani Yosef B'Tech Shali, said the Tanakama. But it's based on a hagdama that this thing is a problematic thing. Says Rabbeinu Tam, when it's hefker, there's no problem. Says Tosis, machikim and a dog is hefker. What did Rabbi Kivega say? There's another problem called staring somebody's parnasa. How did Rabbi Kivega know that? What did Rabbi Kivega say? What are you asking a kasha for machikim as a dog? Because dog is hefker. Maybe there is no din of mahabes by hefker, but maybe there's a problem of staring parnasa by hefker. Who told Rabbi Kivega that there's another problem? Because there's a Gemara in Bava Basra that says, Ma'akav Zogach, there's no such Gemara. There is no other problem called Yerid Nosa Shechavera. There's no such problem, B'chal. So Rabbi Kivega's kasha doesn't stop. What's the fact of Rabbi Kivega? Maybe when does Hefker not a problem? That's by Mahapich. When you're staring my Parnasa, that's a problem, even by Hefker. Who told you there's a new problem called staring Parnasa? Gemara in Bava Basra, no such a Gemara. There's no such Gemara that says in Bava Basra you're staring my Parnasa. The Gemara in Bava Basra says that it's a hachaka that you're causing me. You're staring me, not staring my parnasa. You're staring me. On anything that you stare me, I can tell you to get lost. That's the main point I'm saying. In Yana Gemara stating the Chuvas Arash, that I tell you to get lost is not because you're staring my parnasa. I'm telling you to get lost because you're staring me. Period. Why is it called staring? Because Ani Havach B'charar. Fektosis, it's hefker. That's Niflam Oid. Could be Lamita Shal Torah. Why Tosis held that I have the right to shtel to the two sugyas, because there aren't two sugyas. There's only one sugya. There's no such sugya which says that there's a thing you're not allowed to take away. What was Rabbi Kivega's kasha? Rabbi Kivega's kasha was that, hefker, maybe, Ani Mahapach Haro, it's a one-time event, go get it somewhere else. You're staring somebody's parnasa? Das nicht. Would Rabbi Kivega take that to such a thing called you're staring somebody's parnasa? I'm suggesting the Fida Chuvas Arash, Fida Cham Seif, what I'm buying from the Gemara, no such sugya. You're allowed to stare somebody's parnasa. There's no such problem. Just you're not allowed to stare a guy. You have to know whether you're called a stare or not. If it's hefker, there's nothing of Ani Havach B'charar. There's no stare, and the whole Gemara Babasa collapses. Melech Taisus asks, "Amari de Kakasha," and Yesh La'ayin, what he answered.